What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got some football focus. The Pittsburgh Steelers just finished their Week 18, yes, I said Week 18 matchup, with the Baltimore Ravens, with everything on the line. So, of course, this is the first season ever where there are 18 weeks in a season. We've got 7 seeds now. Pittsburgh came into this game, as the announcers told us a million times. Pittsburgh had to beat Baltimore today in Baltimore. And then the Jaguars somehow had to beat the Indianapolis Colts. And then tonight, later on, when the Chargers and Raiders play, they cannot tie. So the tie is highly unlikely. But also we thought the Jaguars beating the Colts was going to be unlikely. The most important thing was coming in, closing the season, possibly closing Ben's entire career with one more Baltimore Ravens game and trying to take care of our business and get the job done. What we saw on the screen happening was Indianapolis never got out of the blocks against the Jaguars. The Jaguars were up 13-3 at halftime and then went on to build on their lead. But Pittsburgh was tied 3-3 with the Ravens at halftime. So right away we're thinking, okay, the Jaguars are playing for the number 1 draft pick trying to lose. Pittsburgh is playing for their playoff lives trying to win and extend Ben's career. Jacksonville is doing their part, upsetting the hell out of the Colts, and Pittsburgh is not doing their part on offense to beat Baltimore. So it almost came down to the fact that the Jaguars would have done the impossible, and Pittsburgh almost lost on their own end. Thankfully, Pittsburgh crawls out of Baltimore, surviving at the end of overtime with a 16-13 win. I will get into the playoff implications in a second. That stuff comes after, but this game was exactly what you'd expect from a Steelers-Ravens game. A hard-hitting, defensive, low-scoring, physical, cold, rainy, mean kind of game. It is the perfect final Ben versus Ravens game. My goodness, the script couldn't have played out any better if you're a enthusiast of Ben Roethlisberger. If you've watched the man's career since 2004 like I have, you couldn't have asked for a more Roethlisberger way to be sent out of the final regular season game than in this game. Defense played very, very well throughout. They only allowed 13 total points. 3 points in the first half, and that was on a short field to Justin Tucker. So no touchdowns and almost no points allowed in the entire first half. They eventually got tired, and the Ravens' running game came out, not what you'd expect, but came out on fire in the second half. Lamar Jackson did not play in this game. The Ravens' biggest dual threat at quarterback didn't play in this game, nor did J.K. Dobbins, who's been out for the entire season. But it was Tyler Huntley and Latavius Murray, that backup duo for the Ravens that were scorching us. Huntley wasn't doing a ton with his arm. He did get some completions here and there, but it was mostly his feet extending the play for the Ravens. And Latavius Murray, who's not a bad back, he was a starter for a while, did some good stuff in Minnesota, I think played for the Raiders for a while. He's not a bad back. He's a nice committee guy, but he's not a star or a starter by any means. He was torching us in this game. And the other big weapon for the Ravens, as expected, Mark Andrews, we had a hard time covering him on key downs. So defensively, we held our own for the first half. Offense couldn't get anything going. Defense was on the field a lot. They got tired eventually, and the second team for the Ravens was running and finding gaps on us, which meant that our front three wasn't getting enough pressure, and our inside linebackers weren't finding their gaps and staying at home on their gap assignments. Which is what cost us there. And Mark Andrews is kind of the same thing. Mark Andrews was covered today a lot by the inside linebackers, Bush and Schobert, who were back in the game today, and over the top by Terrell Edmunds. I think Terrell Edmunds did a pretty admirable job today of covering Andrews. He was there for a couple of physical plays. He was covering him pretty tight. Even on the plays when Andrews got some nice catches, they were well-contested catches. Edmunds was being physical. He was getting his hands inside. He got a few breakups. Even the ones that Andrews caught, he was covering well. So I like a lot of what Edmunds did today in covering Andrews. Inside linebackers, not so much. Devin Bush had a hard time. He wasn't staying at home on his assignments for those Latavius Murray runs in the gaps, and he was not covering downfield Andrews well at all. There was a couple times that Andrews got deep, and those were the ones that were on Bush that I didn't like what I saw there. Not much better out of Schobert, who did make some nice tackles in the fourth quarter and overtime as the game got down to it. But man, the Steelers find a way to get in these improbable situations. They beat these great teams and lose to these bad teams and find themselves playing for something in Week 17, or in this case, Week 18, every single year. Pittsburgh was like the 7th seed 3 years in a row, And like they got their way into the 6th seed like twice in the last couple of years, and then found themselves just on the outside twice in the last couple of years. In this game, we had to have the worst team in the league beat a playoff team, and then have ourselves beat Baltimore, and we almost found ourselves out. Once again, Pittsburgh, every drive, every quarter, every minute comes down to drama like this game did. Long story short, before I get to the stats, Ben drove us down. One final Big Ben fourth quarter drive with 6 minutes left in the game. Ben drove us down, got some key completions, and got us into the end zone for our first touchdown of the game, which was a go-ahead touchdown to put us up 13-10. It was Ben to Chase Claypool, who was on the outside, caught the ball on I think it was a slant route, came in and got the touchdown. So Ben to Claypool for our first touchdown of the game, which was the go-ahead score, putting us up by 3. Our defense could not hold. Justin Tucker got in there for like a 45-yard field goal to tie it up. And then we went to overtime and battled back and forth. And then Ben drove us down again. One final drive to get us into field goal range for a go-ahead Boswell field goal. So Ben got us in the game-leading touchdown in the fourth quarter, and then the overtime winning touchdown in overtime. What a game. The offense did not do much throughout, but did just enough in the fourth quarter in OT to get us those 10 points to put us ahead. Penalties cost us a little bit, but lots of guys made plays in the end, and I'll talk about that. We'll do offense first here, and I'll talk about the offense. Big Ben's final stats, 30 of 44, 244 yards, including a lot of big completions. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The INT was bad. He tried to force the ball up into double coverage to McLeod, who got pushed out of position. And there was a corner that was on him pretty well and had safety help. Ben forced the ball to McLeod. Like I've said, he's done all season long. I've been yelling that Ben does not target Deontay enough down the field, and especially doesn't target Washington, who couldn't play today because of the COVID list. But didn't target Washington nearly enough this season. Even Freiermuth wasn't targeted quite enough, but he forces the ball on McLeod quite a bit. We'll get back to that. But that was the forced interception. The touchdown, like I said, was a nice read inside to Claypool, who broke a tackle and got into the end zone. Good play there. Najee Harris, the stats don't look like much, but he came to play at the end. 11 carries for 28 yards and 4 catches for 27 yards. He got hurt in about the late first quarter. Didn't play for the second and probably most of the third. Came back either in the late third or early fourth. He had a hand injury. He was playing with a splint on his wrist. He was carrying the ball in his other hand. So he was running a bit gingerly after he got hurt. But did make a couple nice catches down the stretch to get us some yardage, and a really big overtime run. A 14-yard overtime run was the biggest play in overtime to get us into field goal range. So Najee didn't play much, but when he did, he was important. Benny Snow got most of the carries out there tonight. He did have a nice first down run. Aside from that one run, he averaged about 2 yards a carry. He did not do much. Balaj played a couple downs and didn't really get any carries. So nothing. Snell did not play well today. But again, let's get to the receivers. Deontay Johnson, 7 catches, 51 yards. He was our leader in the fourth quarter and overtime. Pat Freiermuth, 6 catches, 53 yards, led the way in yardage today. Chase Claypool, 5 catches, 37 yards, and a touchdown, and also 3 carries for 33 yards on the end arounds. He was getting jet sweeps. His 33 yards on the ground led the way on the ground for us. He had the most rushing yards today for us. Offensive line did not play well, in my opinion. They played great last week, not so much this week. Baltimore does have the number 1 rushing defense, so you couldn't expect nearly as much. They're very good on the ground. John Leglue and Chuks Okorafor. Leglue did not play very well. He had a big face mask penalty. Pittsburgh was driving down to go for the game-winning touchdown mid-fourth quarter, and Leglue had a face mask penalty that took us back 15 yards and killed our drive. He also had a holding call going backwards in the fourth quarter as well. Chuks Okorafor had a holding call on 1st and goal for us. So in spite of the offensive line's best efforts, they were taking us backwards when Ben was trying to put drives together. We had a good drive going in the fourth that Leglue took us out of, and then Ben got us in 1st and goal, and then Chuks took us out, which we got back in anyway. But the offensive line did not play well. There was a play that Ben turned around to hand the ball off to Snell, and there was a guy before Ben even got the handoff off that was back in the backfield. Several times Snell and Najee got met in the backfield with guys that, but by the time the ball was snapped, they were already on our side of the ball. Chuks and Leglue especially. Not a good game for the offensive line. I got to say, the play calling, we still had several third and longs that we dumped the ball off and just gave up on. I don't like that. Canada always calls like anytime it gets to be like 3rd and 9 or longer, he calls dump offs across the middle or little screen plays that never work. Bad play calling in that regard. Also, trying to pound the ball so much when number one, Najee Harris is not in the game, and number two, Baltimore is expecting it, and number three, Baltimore is the best rush defense in the league. Makes no sense. Baltimore has a lot of weaknesses in their pass defense, and they had a couple guys injured today that did not play. So why you wouldn't go for some deeper throws and take some shots downfield with guys like Claypool and Deontay, which is their strength, I don't know why you wouldn't call that. So I don't know if those were reads by Ben or calls by Canada, but I don't like that. So bad strategy and bad play calling on the offense. But in the fourth quarter and overtime, a lot of big plays being made. Deontay converted 2 third downs on short passes that he had to break tackles. He ran good routes to make guys fall down and then broke tackles to get to the first down marker. Chase Claypool had the go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter. Good play by him. Freiermuth had a beautiful third down conversion in overtime. He was being held one-on-one on the outside. Nice coverage, but also being held. Caught the ball with one hand, broke the tackle, and extended and got the first down. Excellent play by him. Also in overtime, there was a 4th and 8 that would have been the end of the game, basically. The ball was out of field goal range, and so we had to go for it on 4th and 8, and that was Ben to McLeod. Caught the ball in the middle of the field, made a nice low catch, and backed up and took a few steps to get the first down. So all 4 of those guys making big plays in this game when it counted. They weren't really around for most of the game, but once we got to the clutch time, they all made big plays. Freiermuth is a future player. Ben trusts in him. McLeod made some plays when it counted. And I love the route running by Deontay Johnson, especially late in this game. In the fourth quarter, he pretty much got all of his stats. He had 51 receiving yards, mostly all in the fourth quarter on short plays. He turned into long plays. Good job by Deontay in this game. Even though he did drop one in overtime that caused the 4th and 8. He had a ball across the middle, a short pass. Ben was trying to extend to a long play, and Deontay didn't catch it. But all in all, again, Ben drove us down for the go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter, one final clutch drive for him, and one final overtime drove us down to get the game-winning overtime play to Boswell. So couldn't ask for a better script for Ben. Low-scoring, physical, rainy game where Ben gets a game-winning and game-winning fourth quarter and game-winning overtime drives for us on Ben's behalf. So thank you, Ben, for several more final drives against your rival at the end of the season. Really clutch there. Defensively, first of all, T.J. Watt tied the all-time sack record. He now holds that record with Michael Strahan. Should be the all-time single leader. There was a play in the first quarter where the snap went off the center's butt. Hundley picked it up and then dropped it again, picked it back up, and then Watt got the sack and strip fumble, which was recovered by Henry Mondo. But they said since the ball was moving around off the center and it was already fumbled and whatever, for some reason it wasn't called a sack. I have no idea why. It was obviously a lost play where the quarterback was sacked behind the line of scrimmage, and they gave the forced fumble to Watt, but they didn't give the sack to Watt. So he tied the record, and then it was taken away, and then he tied it again at the end of the first half with another sack. So in my mind, it should be 2 sacks. He should be the all-time leader by himself, but as it stands, he got the 1 sack to tie Michael Strahan all time. So, this guy deserves all the money he gets. He better be Defensive Player of the Year. Another sack for Watt, another forced fumble for Watt. Mondo with the recovery. Cam Sutton with a big interception. I've been hard on him all season. There was a couple of plays he got beat on. One, he got beat on a crossing route big time by Mark Andrews. But then he came back with a couple nice tackles on the running back, including a 3rd down play that he got a nice tackle on the running back. And he got a big interception in the end zone. Hundley was trying to force it into Andrews. Sutton jumped in with a nice closing play, jumped in front and got a big pick in the end zone, taking points off the board and keeping the Steelers in it. If the Ravens had scored a touchdown there, it might have been over. So Sutton made some nice plays today. Good and bad, up and down, but one of his better efforts lately. Big interception, taking points off the board for Sutton. Clutch play there. Also, Cam Hayward leads the team with 6 tackles. He was big today. He also had a batted ball. T.J. Watt also had a batted ball on a 3rd down and goal. So another batted ball for both guys. 2 of the best batted ball guys in the NFL. Cam also had a sack as well. So that's 10 for him for the season. So he gets a landmark 10 sack along with his batted ball. Cam and Watt have been the 2 best guys for us all season. No separation today. Akilo Weatherspoon started today as Hayden didn't practice this week. Hayden came into play a little later. But another nice breakup for Weatherspoon. Like I said, Cam Sutton was a little bit inconsistent. Arthur Maulet was inconsistent as well. He does what he pretty much always does. He had some nice breakups on the running back, some good tackles in the backfield, but had some hard times covering. Was in and out with injuries twice today as well, so on and off the field. Like I said, Edmonds overall played pretty well, and having to cover Mark Andrews is one of the tougher tight ends in the entire league to cover, so they played pretty well. Covering the backup running backs, man. Latavius Murray had like 130 yards and a touchdown, including a 40-something yard go-ahead touchdown in the second half on us. We could not stop his chunk plays, his burst yardage, and also containing the outside. We had a hard time getting the outside as Huntley got some first downs. But in the end, in the fourth quarter and overtime, the defense held. We got enough pressures with Watt and enough batted balls and stuff with Cam to get the ball back into Ben's hands, where guys like Deontay and Najee and Freiermuth and even McLeod made some big plays. Pittsburgh goes to 9-7-1, ensures another winning season. Jacksonville does the unthinkable and destroys the Colts today like 23-11. They were in control the entire time. So now as long as the Las Vegas Raiders and Los Angeles Chargers don't tie tonight, because if they tie, they both get in and we're out. But as long as they don't tie tonight, Pittsburgh found a way to get in the playoffs. They survived this. They get to overtime. Ben gets the game-winning drive. We beat our rivals. We go to the playoffs with a Jacksonville improbable upset over the Colts. Pittsburgh has probably found its way to get in one more time to send Ben's career out with one more playoff run. Let's see if we can't do it as the 7th seed, just like Ben did as the 6th seed for our first title for Jerome Bettis. Let's see if history can repeat itself one more time. Thank you, Ben. What did you guys think of this game? Did you think we were going to pull this out? Did you think Jacksonville was going to beat the Colts? Tell me in the comments below. If you like these regular season reviews, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends. Please watch these videos. Please engage. Please get this thing high up in the queue so I can continue to do these and get a lot of views for these things as I put a lot of work into them. The unthinkable is happening. We could be going to the playoffs. Let's hope for no tie tonight. Go Steelers, because I want to see you guys with a review next week. Let's hope for the playoffs. Thank you, guys.